the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Hello and welcome to a new year with the Race Hour, sponsored by Gambling.com and our friends at Betfred, and joined as always by Tony Keenan and Diarmuid Nolan. Diarmuid, how did the festive season go for you? Most importantly, nice time with your family, but most importantly, how was your punting?
I had a very good time with the family, but yeah, no, a brilliant Christmas punting cast, one of the best I've had in years now. Banbridge and Percival Galwa, etc. Nearly had the Welsh national winner as well in there, but he couldn't quite get there. But yeah, no, absolutely brilliant Christmas. Really, really good cast. And how was your Christmas?
Punting, well, it was disgraceful all around, actually, to be honest. Punting was a disaster. If you're winning, I'm losing. That's all. That's vice versa. That's the way that the universe levels itself out. I had a nice time. I saw Tony Keenan twice in Monaghan. That was a highlight. But I was with the in-laws for a few days. Then he came home and we'd about 8 days of a vomiting bug in the house. Vicious bug. Oh, it was horrendous. Look, I got to watch loads of racing. That's the only saving grace. Didn't get to see any family. Didn't get to see any friends. Didn't get to go for any points. So that's been my time. But yeah. And Tony Keenan, how did your punting go?
Well, I knew you were pretty depressed when you arrived out to my house. I think you were coming out for the race on the 28th. You texted me about 11:30. I'm on some Manzarac each way here for the day.
Jesus,
this is the key horse. And
God.
I think he must have been 7-2 earlier in the day. But at this point, he was heading towards 6-4. I said, geez, you're in a brilliant bet anyway. I think you arrived in the door and he was after the jump with 3 hurdles. He looked like a horse was going to be pulled out. I thought you were going to turn on your heel altogether and go. But at least you stayed. You toughed it out. My punting, very flat, to be honest. I was trying hard, but I think I lost the 26th, 27, 28, won a small few quid on the last day in Leopardstown. I had a good day on New Year's Day and I lost a few quid at Naas then on Sunday, though. I did make one very good decision on Sunday. I was going to go racing to Naas and I decided I wouldn't, which looked very intelligent and even more intelligent as the day went on. Jesus, I wouldn't like to be home out of that place now after the third or fourth race. It looked awful.
Yeah, a miracle they got through the card, wasn't it? The bumper was something I've never seen that like that.
No, the bumper was
ridiculous. Yeah. So they said they probably should have canned it for the second last and the last. It was grand though, Tony. Your views now. We'll have a quick chat about this. We talked about the fog. You kind of think it should probably go by the wayside if it's that bad.
I'm not a fan of they're running these meetings. Look, again, I think we were chatting about it. It's not an easy decision when you've 8, 10, 12, 15,000 people on site and telling them to go home and all that. But definitely, I think for the ordinary meetings, just need to bin them because it is a TV sport at that stage of the game for the few hundred people who are at it. I realise it's a difficult decision, but I don't know.
I reckon you're completely. Sorry, Tony. I think you're completely in the minority because most fellas have had a bet and they're as happy now have the bet and not see the race and find out the result as they would. Do you know what I mean? If you said, right, you're gonna a tenner on a horse, or you can have nothing and watch the race, I'll have the tenner and tell me the result after. Like, that I'd rather do that anyway. And I'd say 9 out of 10 fellas are surely like that.
Yeah, maybe they're right. Yeah, I'd be like that now if I was on the 20s and it was currently sitting at 8s. I definitely want to see him run anyway. Yeah. That'd be for sure. I think, and that I was on one of those on the 26th. That horse of Dempsey, so I had no race in the end. But I think I've been to about 3 or 4 of these fog meetings in my life. I was there the day 1,000 Stars won in Fairyhouse. That was horrendous. That was an absolute joke. No one could see anything that day. I was there the day it must have been Jacket and won the Tiestes. Another day you could see absolutely nothing. And it was in Leopardstown one day where they called it off actually after about 3 races. It was the old Lexus day. I think it was the year What a Friend won the Lexus because they ran it the following day. Solwood won the 2 mile hurdle. I think there were only 8 races maybe the next day. So it's not, they have a little bit of precedent of calling it off in Leopardstown, but no, this year they were, and definitely I suppose when they got through the first day, they definitely weren't going to do it the second day anyway.
Yeah, well, look, we're rambling here now, so we'll crack on. And listen, you've all heard podcasts and listened to shows and had big Christmas reviews. We'll touch on a small few things later in the show. But really, we're going to have a look at Naas, and we're going to crack on and have a right good look at the novice hurdlers for Cheltenham. So that's going to be the rip of the show, and we all have a few anti-post bets now for Cheltenham at this stage. Right, so Tony, take Naas away there. As we said, there was snow, there was everything, but there was good racing as well. If you want to start maybe with what we call the Arkle trial, like the Racing Post Chase, the new race where In the Pocket was disappointing.
Yeah, In the Pocket was terrible. Hanging the whole way. I suppose the three fancied horses in it, all looked at quite smelly form, I think, coming into it. Their novice hurdle form was looking a bit smelly when you started looking back through it, and the novice chase form wasn't really working out. So it was which one of them was going to step up. I would have said the winner was the least likely to do it, because he kind of bombed on a couple of occasions after promising seasonal returns, first 2 years with Mullins. But he jumped very well. I thought he won very, very easily. Townend was quite happy to let Firefox lead over the last and then just go and pick him up as he liked. The only thing I would say after, Mullins was very keen to say that the soft ground suited him, and he also got the impression in his comments afterwards that the horse would be placed around Masborough and Ballybourne rather than Ile Atlantique dictating anything.
Very strong on Masborough, wasn't he? You know, with Gary O'Brien afterwards, it was all, look, we have Masborough basically, and he's the DRF number one, but I suppose this fella will go as well. Was that kind of a thing?
Yeah, exactly. What did you think of In the Pocket? His run was fairly dismal. At least Firefox ran his race to a point. He made a bad mistake down the back, got back into it. Elliot was saying he didn't really like the ground, which I suppose his bulk of his form would suggest the same, but there were no real excuses for the JP horse. Very strong in the market.
No, I'm going to leave it to Cass, because Cass is a big fan of him. So Cass, as you, I thought he was just dodgepot, to be honest. I think he's completely wrong, to be honest.
In the Pocket, well, I was hugely impressed on the day he won at Aintree as a novice hurdler, and I thought he was awesome at Wexford. I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of him. If you asked me who I'd like in the Arkle, you know, I would have been way ahead Madgebury him, and I didn't back him the other day or anything. But I did think he'd win. Look, dare we say, I thought Rachel looked very weak on him. You know, she nearly looked like a conditional on him now. He was pulling the arms out of him, but she looked like she was going to fall off either side of him all through the race. And I was just looking at it thinking, you know, is Rachel the Rachel she was a few years ago? And there's been a few rides like that at Christmas. And I know, you know, it's not popular. It's not the done thing to talk ill of Rachel and what a thing she's been for the sport, but she's not riding anywhere near the colour of what she was a couple of seasons ago. And to be honest, that's kind of what I took from the race. But look, that could be very harsh on her. Could have been the horse. Diarmuid, you certainly think it was the horse anyway, and not a Rachel's.
Oh yeah, God no. I just thought jumping each fence, he cocked his back weirdly. I thought he was kind of drifting when she went 2 out. She tried to go through the gap. He pulled himself away from the gap. I think as much as it wasn't the cleanest looking ride in the world, I think sometimes a horse can make an absolute fool of you, and I think that's what happened here. I remember Keith Dunne talking before on our blog. I can't remember the name of the horse. I'm probably better off not naming it anyway, but he was talking about a horse, and he said he remembers looking at other jockeys riding this horse around the tracks and think, God, I'd love a go on him. And he used to think these other lads were dopes, but he said the second he jumped on this horse's back, he said he looked like a flapping jockey all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He said there is just sometimes horses, they don't have the balance jumping a fence. You don't have any balance because the horse is, you know, 6 times the size of you. So he said, like, that's kind of how I take. But look, I absolutely load blaming jockeys anyway. I just think they're part of the equation. Rachel might not be where she once was, which is fair enough after being such a gap there as well. But I thought, A, he looked like a wrong, and B, Henry de Brom had a much better Christmas overall than kind of he normally would. But a lot of his horses cut out early enough now as well. I thought his 2, Lantry Lady and the other one in the Mayor's Chase as well, they cut out quite early as well. So I like, you know, as in there's more than likely more than one reason why, but he'd be wrong, and now I wouldn't be going near him again, that horse in here.
Okay, and then the Lawlers of Days Dermo, the Yellow Clay, not the sexiest horse ever. I remember Tony, actually, you were keen on him for the bumper last year. Could you see Cheltenham Festival winners coming out of that race as they have done in the past, Dermo?
Depends on the ground now. First of all, the market was very interesting beforehand. Butch Cassidy, you could tell he wasn't going to be running a race by the market straight away. And he didn't run his race. Shuffle the Deck was very, very similar. I think it's form that is very hard to kind of pull forward because an awful lot of them just kind of didn't run their race. The Clay, the Yellow Clay, he's interesting just because Gordon Elliott has been going on about him being a good ground horse for ages and ages and ages, and then he handled it with absolutely aplomb. We also are getting more and more soft, kind of heavy festivals, so of course he has to be part of your reckoning. But overall on Sunday, I watched it again, and to be honest, most of it, to me anyway, is form that I'm not too massively keen on taking forward all that much. I think the horses either handled it or they didn't, and I think a lot of that field were screaming a long way out that they were absolutely hating every single second of it. Any horse that kind of could come off the pace should definitely be kind of marked up, because I thought Sam Ewing gave an absolute peach of a ride here. He was just in the perfect spot. He had the front two kind of go on. He was able to pick them up, and he was just in the driving seat the whole way around. He's a very good jockey. He was at a brilliant festive period, but he's a good horse. But I would be looking for a sexier yoke now over Christmas. But that's overall Sunday at Naas for me is form that I'm happy to kind of leave behind Castle.
Yeah, Tony, it was an interesting race. It always is that Lord's of the race. So, you know, I remember last year Ilan Teak was flying home. Lecky Watson was in it. I can't remember what won it. But what did you think of it?
I thought for the second time in the last two Grade 1s in Ireland, the Elliott team got the tactics very right, I would have said. They executed brilliant tactics there, and the two-main hurdle, or whatever, Neville's Hotel or whatever it's called now, with King of Kingsfield. And again here on Sunday, Wingman set a good pace. I thought Ewing's positioning now was class. Tested the jumping of Mullins' horses in behind, which found out their frailty, so they were spot on. I like Diarmuid said, Elliott has been saying from the get-go this horse doesn't really like slow ground, so is there a bigger performance in him coming in better ground? I thought this. I backed second, and I backed Butch Cassidy, and I've actually had a few quid on the second for the Turner's Novice Hurdle at Cheltenham at 33s since that. Patrick Mullins come in after saying he thought he'd get the 8 lengths back. It could be jockey talk there, but I can see reasons why he would. First of all, he's coming off a break. He'd never run on ground this soft. He'd run officially heavy in France, but those going descriptions can be highly inaccurate. I wouldn't pass much remarks on that. Horse was very keen, and I think as a result of him being keen, he took him back, which meant that the yellow clay was just far better position. I thought he was too far out of his ground, but that was a byproduct of him being keen, so he could ride him a bit more forward. I thought Super Sunday's jumping was really, really good. Now I know he's at 5 runs over hurdles, and that would help, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't just go to the Grade 1 room, unless Mullins has something that massively puts his hand up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see on the race on Sunday there's the 2-mile race at the DRF, but at the moment he doesn't seem to have the massive standout horse, so maybe Super Sunday's a horse he can go for. I didn't think he deserved to be 4 times the price of the yellow clay after Sunday anyway. I just want to say one thing about the heavy ground now, and I'll come back to Jasmine DeVoe. Like, you won't believe this. Before Sunday, there had only been 15 races run in the Irish jump season so far with heavy in the going description.
Go on.
Like that's how fast the ground has been. There was 2 days in Tremor, New Year's Day, and a meeting back there in November, and a handful of races in Listowel. So like it has all been good ground. I know it's been a bit of soft ground, but heavy's just been a foreign word. So maybe we want to see a bit of that. That's just something to bear in mind. I never saw an interview, a set of interviews from Willie Mullins about a horse that you would think would be a good horse, as what he said about Jasmine DeVoe on Sunday. So he comes on after Ely Atlantique is born, and Gary O'Brien asks him about Jasmine DeVoe. He says, "Night form's working out and all that. How's his school and gone?" I says, "Well, haven't really got the schooling we want into him because he'd a slight overreach." And then he elaborates and he says, "Well, it kind of be a case with him, you'd be trying not to lose ground rather than gain ground." And you're going, Jesus, that doesn't sound too good. Like, this is 6-4 favour for Grade 1 coming up in 20 minutes. And that's exactly what he does. And then after the horse wins the maiden hurdle afterwards, Gary Brink comes back and asks, "Well, what about Jasmine DeVoe? Anything you can do to tidy this by jumping up?" I thought Mullins was a step away from just throwing his hands in the air and saying, "Nothing I can do about it." Like, he's a lost cause. He just says, like, "We'll see what we can do. What can you do?" type of thing. So, geez, you'd be very brave to back him for anything at the minute. They sound like they're going to try to find a very soft target for him to try and get him jumping. But like, Jesus, how the mighty is fallen champion bumper winner last year, last season, and he now doesn't seem to have any faith in him at all.
He actually said in the interview before the race, because I texted you about the two of you about it, saying, "Geez, did you hear this interview? That's unbelievable how negative he was about him." Because he said before the race he didn't get enough schooling into him because of the overreach, and he said Gary basically said, "Yeah, but he still has a favourite chance." And Willie nearly said, "No, he doesn't, because he can't jump." Basically, I like you, never seen him as negative. Said he needed a lot more schooling, and even then that might help him. And I checked the betting, he'd be on the phone looking at the betting beforehand. He was about 2.7. And after the interview, 2.5. So you just, I just don't understand these markets at all. I was like, sure, he surely have drifted out now to 9-4 or something from 2.7. But yeah, into 2.5 after the interview. Incredible stuff. You had a couple more points on Nace as well, Tony.
No, not major. I think Diarmuid hitting it there. Like every Henry de Bromhead horse ran poorly. Like Majestic Force was the one that cutting out in the first. I couldn't get over that. Like she seemed to get a perfect toe into the race and jumped well, and then 2 out just checked out completely. I wondered did they have a bad trip up or something like that. And that's me just having a stab at things there because the weather was so bad, and I know Eric McNamara had horses that couldn't run on Sunday. But they ran so dismally. Maybe that's a possible excuse though. They can only be in form for so long. I think, Jim, you mentioned that about the historic kind of dip with the Bromheads in January, and maybe this was just the start of it.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our notebook horse in the last few weeks. So this is going to include Christmas. I'll go first, lads, so you can have your ones ready after, right? So my one was actually the very first race of Christmas on the 26th. A horse called Holy See with William Durkin, Bill Durkin. It was a 3-year-old herd at Limerick, so he's a 4-year-old now. He'd won a flat race in France, and he was 4th in a listed race. Calandigan was actually in that race. You know the horse, though, did he win the King George or whatever? He won at Ascot anyway. Calandigan, 4th in a listed race that he was in. Travelled like the absolute rat of God, turning in at Limerick. Like he looked the winner all over, and he was a 25-1 shot, I think. And I think if he jumped the last, he might have gone close. He certainly would have been second, but he kind of landed on his back legs, couldn't gather him up, and jockey was easy on him then. He ended up 4th, only beaten a couple of lengths. Now, very poor race, I would say. The winner was only rated 100 in single figures, 109 or something. A horse of Joseph. So Joseph had a good one run on into 3rd as well. So I'd say there'll be winners come out of the race, but he's not a sexy yard. He actually won the next race with Laffey as well. Good horse off the flat as well. So good to see Bill Durkin with a couple of good ones. And Holy See, definitely one to watch out for. If they can find a weakish maiden hurdle or get him handicapped, he could be running in those 4-year-old handicaps and definitely has loads of ability. Diarmuid, we'll come to you for your eye catcher over Christmas.
Yeah, I had 2. First one was on the 28th. Aria Fortuna, handicap hurdle there in 3rd. I thought this horse was rather unlucky in that he was the one that was really hurt by the last hurdle being taken out because he's no flat speed at all. He's a big yoke of a thing, especially over 2 miles 4. But for Tony Martin, he was quietly backed and then he kind of flew through. I thought he was jumping what should have been 2 out, was the last. He was just making his move and he just he couldn't get them back. He just didn't have the flat speed of the others. There was a big long kind of run in there. He's only rated 102 now. He's been 2nd and 3rd the last twice, so he be 1 there. The other one is Feet of a Dancer, who I'd be quite interested in for a Pertemps final. She actually ran huge there in that trial. Going from the front, she pulled early again. They need to try and sort that out, but she still ran a huge race in 3rd. She's 132 now, which means with the Irish handicap thing, she'd get about 137 maybe. That's bang in there for Pertemps. She does qualify now, and she'd be 1 there as well. So Aria Fortuna and Feet of a Dancer.
Yeah, I actually backed Feet of a Dancer, and Tony backed the 2nd, I think, was in that race. Or did you back the winner of that one, Tony, the Pertemps?
No, I didn't back the winner of that.
Win some, lose 1-1, it wasn't. And what's available was 2nd, I think.
Yeah. And I backed Feet of a Dancer. Tony was saying to me, look, she never gets home, and she didn't get home. So maybe the 2.5 mile Mayor's handicap hurdle Dermo at the DRF might be more the race for her than a Pertemps final, but I can see where you're coming from. She's that kind of a travel-y thing that always catches the eye, isn't she?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. But I do think if they can get her settled, she just doesn't get home because of that. But I think gunning her from the front, where you could just use her that little bit more. She is only 5. That was the most accomplished kind of run from her yet, and I think they might just kind of get a little bit more out of her. That's all.
And Tony, your eye catchers.
Look, lads, this could be a lengthy thing. I'm just going to pick one. I'll pick one. I'll pick
I'm
2
going to finish this glass of wine here, so I'm sitting back.
Yeah. You sit back for a while here if you want. I reckon I'll put about 35, 40 horses in my tracker after the Leopardstown down in Limerick. So yeah, we'll try and pick a couple out here. Just in that same race you were on about, I thought Shoulder ran a nice race in 3rd. I actually think that was quite a reasonable 3-year-old maiden hurdle. I think Shoulder kind of ran 2 or 3 races in one rare kind of a ride in Irish maiden hurdle. She was dropped out the back, like you're never winning from there on an Irish maiden hurdle. Kind of made a mid-race move, jumped the first two poorly, but a hurdle got better kind of after that, made a mid-race move early down the back in Limerick, then kind of made another move across the side of the track and it still managed to finish out her race. She'd be quite a classy enough flat mare or flat filly, sorry, to be going hurdling, which can have low 80s, mid 80s type of rate. I think there's definitely a racing horse somewhere along the line. Another one there in the Tim Duggan at Limerick. I think Union Park has definitely got a race in him too. He's at a bit of a spaced out 2024 into 2025. He ran at that meeting at Naas, the one that's just gone this weekend last year, in a 2-mile handicap chase, a competitive version of that. Midnight It Is came out of that too, I think. Just hit the front a bit too soon that day, and then he was off and he went for a good race at the Punchestown Festival, was going fine, starting to make a move into it, then got brought down. I think his first race since with this race at Limerick, the Tim Duggan, hampered at the first here out the back. There's not an awful lot has got into it. The fatty horse that won it kind of controlled it from the front. But he's kind of made a move again coming out of the back. He's got onto the kind of tail of them, gets up into third, I think jumping 2 out and then just flattens out on weekends. Philip Rothwell seems to just be continuing in the same kind of vein as he has done for the last while. Horses are all running well, hitting the frame and handicaps or prices, so definitely think it's one to think about. Look, there were loads of horses there in the fog at Leopardstown. I picked 1 or 2 of these out. Like in the maiden hurdle, there was some could only be described as comical stuff. Gavin Cromwell horse here called Come On the Lads, that kind of do you know what? It was like a lad that you were running cross country in school there. Do you know you're out the back in the cross country and you were supposed to run 3 laps of the park and this lad only ran 2. It looked like he kind of joined in halfway. Like, just come on the lad. You just want to stop the video as they're turning out of the back, and then when you can see it again in the fog, he's passed about 10 horses. So yeah, come on the lads. I think that a faster back end sectional than the winner. The winner was Kopek the Boards, like, who, you know, is a potential supreme horse. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting run. Don't Tell Jack was another one in that. He actually something happened to him at the first. He kind of made a mistake and the kind of jockey lost his irons and he got forced back in the field, and he's kind of a bit slow for 2 miles anyway. I thought he finished out his race well. But yeah, we'll be mentioning a lot of these horses as we come to the kind of the DRF and things like that. So we go with Don't Tell Jack, Come On the Lads, Shoda and Union Park, I suppose, will be the 4 that kind of stood out to me, but plenty of others. I thought it was really
Warden's
good
Whisper as well.
Tony
went close as well. Warden's Whisper, I was nearly roaring him home. He nearly got the...
Which horse is this, sorry?
Warden's Whisper, the one you called a complete wrong when I put him up as a notebook horse. He nearly won over Christmas.
Warden's Whisper. Jeez, I'm losing it here. Who trains it?
Yeah, I'd never heard of
very
that.
professional.
You're
Warden's Whisper.
Doesn't matter. Keep kicking.
Yeah.
Keep kicking. It's all good.
Yeah, we'll keep going. There was another one at the weekend. Stick with the Process. Classic Ted Welsh, like 125 to 1 shot. Second time out in Maiden Hurdle. Absolutely swinging coming to the last. And I'd say they were dreading he might have to run on to second, but Jody McGarvey managed to smuggle him and he kind of, kept him in 5th. But Stick with the Process. Aptly named JP won with Ted Welsh. So he's got 2 maiden hurdles. They'll stick with the Process now, and they did the right thing to do now. We go for a touch on the 3rd maiden hurdle when they don't think he's going to be off. That'd be the thing to do, but he's definitely one as well. Right, so we're going to have a good look at the novice hurdles with the view to Cheltenham. We're in January now, and things don't change that much now beyond what happens in the DRF really every year. So it's starting to get interesting, and we'll go through the 3 big novice hurdles sort of in order, but with a view to all. Tony, I think the interesting thing is, like, where are all the horses? There is no English horses in the Supreme. There is none. And then there is no Irish horses.
I was going to ask you the question now. Are the English half decent this year? I don't know that they are. I'm just asking the question.
Well, we're in the Supreme. We might talk about them with the other 2 races, but there isn't a Supreme horse anyway.
No, there's none. Yeah, none at all. I went through it there. There's none.
Like, I would start by giving Gordon Elliott a bit of credit. He's extracted 2 Grade 1 wins out of horses from the Champion Bumper that I think most people think the form isn't wonderful. Romeo Coolio, he's got a Grade 1 out of, and the Yellow Clay he's got a Grade 1 out of. So I don't know if is there any much more in Romeo Coolio, whatever, with the Yellow Clay. So I'd say a fair play to him then. But the fact that Romeo Coolio was kind of around the top of the market for the Supreme, he's probably a bit vulnerable and things like that. I suppose that you're waiting to see what is Mullen's standout horse And I think in kind of in years past, you could kind of see the likes of Ballybournes and Sir Gerhard's kind of trending that way even at this point. But now it seems to be very, very difficult just to really put your finger on one that's going to take a... I'm not saying Mullins is not going to win Cheltenham Grade 1 Novice Hurdles. There's a fair chance he will. But I don't think there's going to be one that's going to go off even money or 4 to 6. Do you think there's anything like that can put it? Maybe there is something that can put its hand up. It just doesn't feel like there's a...
He could in the Triumph, and the one that could is Salvatore Mundi if he goes and bolts up at a Moscow Flyer. He could be a 7 to 4 favourite. You know, I'd say he'd be the one. But beyond Salvatore Mundi, I don't see it. Like I don't have too much to say in the Supreme. You were negative on Romeo Coolio there. I know he was turned over by Toon Savater, who was, beaten off 144 at Leopardstown. I thought Romeo Coolio was very impressive the way he beat Blue Devassi, who's a good horse, and really ran through the line well. And Gordon's doing his thing now of putting him away. So from a price perspective, if you're poking me at the Supreme, like if I was going fishy, I've spoken about Skylord, but that's finger in the air stuff, hoping. But Romeo Coolio's 10 to 1 there, and he's not going to run again. He'd surely be 5 to 1 of the day, I would have thought. So I think he's quite a good bet at the moment. Tony, I'll come back to you because I know you've backed one in the Supreme. So we'll come back to you, Diarmuid.
I think JP McManus has he was the real kind of finder over Christmas. All the month of December, because it's just very interesting to see now where he just has an awful lot of novices. And the two that I've kind of taken out from the last month from Willie's were Kellistois and K Duty. K Duty, first of all, because that was he drifted like a barge all morning and won very, very strongly, I thought. And thing there, but he's going back to 2 miles at the DRF apparently, but that would scream to me as being more of a Ballyburn kind of type approach. He would end up in the Ballymore, I think, anywhere, or the Berry Bingham, the Turners even now at
Turners, yeah,
as it's called. I think Kellistois is the one who I hadn't put on my pre-show list, but I've just kind of poured through it here. I think he's the one that could really dramatically shorten over the next few weeks. He's in the Moscow Flyer on Sunday. If that race goes ahead, he's 20 to 1 now. He was brilliant at Cork. Now, it wasn't a great race, but he won fierce easily. He's second favourite there behind Salvatore Mundi. Salvatore Mundi is very clearly not easy at all to get to the course. He's entered Sunday, but there's no guarantee that he'll run. This lad is a second favourite. He could well end up going off 5 here. And at 20 to 1, I just thought he was very impressive at Christmas. I think as much as Willie has a job to do kind of with all his, it's just the pure dirt of the amount of kind of JP runners, because that Kopek des Boer, who I didn't really like him at Christmas, I thought he jumped abysmally. He got the run of the race as well. Simon Torrens was riding Cowabunga, and I thought that was a peculiar enough ride, and I don't know how much they were trying to... it just seemed a weird ride. He flew home late. The winner, Kopek des Boer, was obviously comfortable enough, but I wouldn't... At big odds now, I kind of fancy Cowabunga with a better ride, kind of him maybe getting closer, but I think playing Willie Mullins bingo for a second, I think Kellistois, he could be the one who could really shorten cast, and he could go off 4 to 1, 5 to 1, because I don't think Salvatore Mundi, he's made a glass clearly. He's had one run since that triumph, and it's just, he looks very different.
Yeah, okay, we'll see. If we see Salvatore Mundi and he wins, I think he probably will be the jolly if he's impressive. But it's certainly open. But Tony, you've had a bet here.
Yeah, look, I've got a number of small anti-post bets there, and I don't want to be lobbying for people having 6 or 10 anti-post bets or anything like that, but I've probably had 5 or 6 in the last week or fortnight. Just personally, kind of the idea is just have a few small bets and see can we get 1 or 2 or 3 of them to shorten up a bit and turn up with a bit of a chance. They've all kind of been a price, but I just went with, to me, what was probably the most visual impressive 2-mile maiden hurdle over Christmas, which was Work Ahead, who won the second race at Leopardstown on St. Stephen's Day. Henry de Bromhead trained. He was behind Jasmine DeVoe at Navan, but he was coming off a 678-day break then, so I'm just prepared to view him as a new horse the second day because the run was just kind of massively needed. They were obviously a lot more assured with the fitness. They just went on with him. His jumping was so sharp, really 2 mile way jumping. Good time, visually excellent. 25-1 for Supreme. The race looks wide open. I think if there's a horse comes out and can win this race on Sunday at Punchestown, if it goes ahead impressively, or the DRF race impressively, you're looking at probably the short price favourite. I'm assuming he's won at Leopardstown. He's going to go for the DRF race. I'd hopefully be in a position he'd be a reasonable price there. I can back him there as well. So yeah, he'd be my shout at the Supreme at the moment. Definitely.
What was the time? Not to put you on the spot, Tony. I know you love the time. So do you know with him was it a good time or? As a
it was a decent time.
Yeah.
They were all the first 3 races at Leopardstown, I think, all come out pretty good on the times. The time is only kind of part of it. But fast and good horses can run slow times, but it was the visuals more so, and his jumping and the chunk of improvement that he found for the first run, and the fact that the race is wide open and there doesn't seem to be an absolute star in it at the moment. Of course, it's a novice hurdle. Something could well step up between them and then.
What I thought with him, Rachel rode him like it was Rachel, wasn't it? It wasn't Darragh O'Keefe. She rode him like a really good horse. Do you remember when Honeysuckle won? Oh, it might have been her second Irish champion hurdle. I'm not even sure she was favourite that day, but she kind of in that fall straight before they come into the straight. You know that at Leopardstown they jumped that.
No, it was actually the young fella that rode it. O'Connor rode it.
Yeah, Mike O'Connor rode it.
Okay, Mike O'Connor rode it. But he kind of kicked on in that part of the course. Normally they kick on around the bend at Leopardstown and go for home, whereas he kicked on there on the little the bend kind of, which is an unusual way, and had it was overturned it. Yeah. Very you don't see maiden hurdles over when they turn in that a horse has just kicked 10 lengths clear, which he did. No, he was very impressive. Totally see it. Absolutely can see it. I might back him as well. Yeah, you've made a good case for him. And the middle distance one, we're on to the English horses here. A question for the two of you now. Look, we won't know the answer, but we might as well have a guess for the crack. How much do you reckon he paid for the New Lion?
I'd be saying
just to guess a figure.
1.1. I'd be saying.
Yeah, Tony.
I would say more than that.
Yeah, I would say more. Go on, Tony. You're such a coy Monaghan man. Just fucking say a number,
possibly
Tony.
A fair bit more. 1.6.
Wow, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. 1.25, 1.2 was the figure I would have guessed if you'd asked me. I'd say you could be right. Sure, this fella was buying horses for 600 and 700 grand that were no good. Sure, he's hardly going to sell one for 750 grand, like some people were saying.
Yeah,
definitely 7 figure. 2 million wouldn't shock you. Yeah. But an odd decision to get out when you have one like that after spending it on the other ones, I thought. But anyway, the New Lion. What do you think of him, Diarmuid? I think he's got a favourite chance. He strikes me as being extremely short in the betting.
He is extremely short. I mean, 19 winners of the Chello have gone for this race, and there's been 19 losers. It's a race that it's just so different. We've had loads and loads of very good horses who have come here and haven't won it. He's very good. He was brilliant. It's just the UK are kind of running away with themselves a little bit. I mean, he's very hard to know what was in that race at all. Really, he was God almighty. He'd take your eye out. He was brilliant. But again, you're looking at Paul Nicholls' horse, who they really fancied for it. Paul Nicholls' horses flopped badly over Christmas. The rest of the field now.
Walk in the park. He's a walk in the park Regent's Stroll. I told you he was useless.
Yeah, no, you did. In fairness to Nicholls, though, I do think the horses were they were off over Christmas anyway. But I have questions over that. Just 19 winners of the Chello, none of them here. I have to question that. And Potter's Charm, people are really running away with him as well. The UK, he beat a horse called Manila 6-0 at Cheltenham by 2 3/4 lengths. That horse has come out since and was beaten by Pray Tell at Cork, who's Desmond Keneally's. Lovely horse, but he's not winning this anyway. And then he went up to 2 miles 7 then at Limerick, and he ran a good race behind the big Westerner. But again, that's not form that is kind of screaming out. And Potter's Legend, he did not bury him by any means at all. So I think this race is prime something big here. And I do like K Doody here. Really, really like him for this. He's kind of one as well. Him and Kellis Store are two that I'm really looking at. As I said, but I love that performance over Christmas. Love the fact that he drifted badly and still won with his head in his chest. He looked plenty of speed. He did stay. He'd be one that I absolutely love here. I just love that performance. I love how Willie, last season, his dark horse on the sportinglife.com was Madgeborough. His dark horse this season was K Doody. And after the race was really kind of, now again, I'd say he was just thrilled to have a winner after his few days. But this lad, he really loved him. You could see it a mile away. Spoke about kind of going down that same route as Ballyburn. Obviously, he wasn't saying, you know, he's Ballyburn times 2, but still it was a proper performance. It's a good race, Cass, but the new line, I'd be looking to take him on all day. Potter's Charm, not great form. I do think he's a very good bet here, 14-1.
Yeah, there's no point asking Tony Keenan now about these English horses anyway, because I was in Tony's front room and we were watching, he'd RTE racing on, which and I had to tell Tony that Shallow Hurdle was on. And basically, I'd never heard of this race, never heard of any of the horses in it, didn't know it was on, but we watched it anyway. But literally, I'm not going to ask Tony about the new line and Potter's Charm. I was in Newbury today, and New Line one, wasn't impressed with him, and he beat absolute trees. Like, the horse to finish second is completely useless, like a 115, 120 Irish kind of a horse. And like you say, like Valgrand, another summer horse that these horses are beating. That Bill Joyce of the O'Neills is all right, you know, might be an hour 130 horse. So, you know, you could probably get the New Line
hurdle kind of horse, isn't he? That's what he kind of is.
The New Line. Well, like I should be struggling to get him into the low 140s, like really.
Bill Joyce, sorry.
Not a hope. As easy to stay. You know, I'd say he'll be 3 miler in time. So yeah, no, I wouldn't be negative on the Shallow Hurdle though. As a rule, I think that's a kind of a statistical an anomaly. You know, it's just the Irish horses tend to win the races. Is the reality when it comes to it.
I think though it's an awkward. Where do you go in England after winning the Shallow? You more than likely go straight to Cheltenham. They're like, it's not as much of an anomaly as it seems. They win it.
Yeah.
They win, then you're in that kind of no man's land then where they don't have a DRF. They're not going to come here. They're either probably taking in some brutal race then over there where they're going off 1-5. They then hit the festival and they get an almighty fright because they're bumping into Irish horses that have been taking each other on all year.
Yeah.
The Shallow is a bad trial because of the fact that it just fits weirdly into the calendar. I'd love that race now at the end of January. Will be proper.
Yes. Yeah, so it's like when in the old system you'd win the Munster final and you'd be left 5 weeks cold before an Ireland semi-final, and some battle-hardened team would come in and hammer you in the semi-final that you beat by 12 points in the Munster semi-final, that kind of thing. That's standard. It used to be Waterford. Waterford used to win, but what about 6 out of 10 Munster finals? They're hockeyed every year in the All-Ireland semi-final. So I can feel the Shallow Hurdle winners pain in that respect. But Tony, don't waste our time now with these English horses, but you have had a bet on an Irish horse here.
I wouldn't say about the English horses, like they are the favourite and the second favourite. So, shit, when this becomes kind of a bit, sure, with 3 Irish lads here, it's a bit us and them and all this type of stuff. But like money has no patriotism as far as I'm concerned. Like, back an English winner, not bother me. But by God, like Jesus, it's all in the price. Like it's all in the price already, isn't it? Like that they could potentially be. Like, the market is basically saying that Mullins hasn't got a horse, but I think we just haven't found out yet. Has Mullins got a horse? A lot of them are just maiden hurdlers, and that the lack of the heavy ground there, as we're talking about. The lads, if there's nothing I've learned about Irish jumps racing over the last 10 years, is Mullins finds a way. No matter what he's up against, he finds a way to win these races by hook or by crook. So, if I was looking at it from that point of view, I'd be much more interested in backing an Irish horse. I backed one of his Super Sunday. Kind of made the case for him already. I just think he's overpriced relative to the yellow clay, and I like his run at the weekend. Now, another horse of his that, again, on just visuals, and this will probably feed into the Albert Bartlett because he could be a horse for that race, was his Final Demand that won at Limerick on That was December 28th. Now, it was a really poor race that he won. The horse that was second was Gordon Elliott's Timmy Tuesday. He doesn't want to win. And Will the Wild of Cromwell's, I thought he was ridden with the next day in Maine. They dropped him out, which is a little bit surprising considering he was a second favourite. But this final demand, like his jumping was really sharp. He was coming up out of Danny Mullins' hands. He just powered through the race there, powered through it. We had a couple of mistakes at the last two, but that's kind of when he got out in the open. Mullins was very fulsome in praise of him kind of beforehand in some comments that I read. So he just looked a good horse. He felt a good horse to me now. Now, where he would go next, the 2 made 6 at the DRF, maybe one of those races at Thurles, maybe the 2.5 might be a possibility. But I'd say he's a force to be reckoned with. Now, the Albert Bartlett would be, like, the winner of the Albert Bartlett, I think is impossible to find on the day, not to find weeks ahead. Like, I just think it's such a hard race. I've landed on brilliant, and I need to stop thinking of this because it's actually irrational. I've landed on brilliant bets, I think, in the Albert Bartlett in the last 2 years. I backed Corbett's Cross for it 2 years ago, or 2 seasons ago, when after he won at Naas, he was 6 or 7 to 1. I just thought his ability level was through the roof. And I backed Reed and Tommy Wrongford last year at 8 to 1. I think both of them went off half the price, and I've no draw. Like, I suppose in theory it was a good bet, but I just fit. You know, when you're on one of these for the Suprema and kind of the half in price, I think you've got a right life now.
Yeah.
I think if you can get one that's 8 to 1 into 4 to 1 in the month or two before, and you've got a right chance. The Albert Bartlett, it just feels like something that hasn't been mapped at 20 to 1 that just needed the slog is going to give you a sickener from the back of the last. You know, it's just that type of race. Horrible. So maybe curing myself for trying to back the Albert Bartlett winner might be another resolution for 2025.
Yeah, we might be able to cheer you up. I'm feeling you back to now 1 year, the year Penton Hills wants to try of that day, and whatever, what is that? I'll look it up anyway, because Dermo, you fancy one in the Bartlett.
I really do, yeah. No, off the K-Duty race, Cocktail Dibbin, same connections, obviously, as Indo and Monty Star. Maybe the colours are just my weakness here, but K-Duty looked like the speed horse who just kind of buried the race early, and this lad stayed and stayed and stayed. I really liked him. I wouldn't be surprised now that he could well kind of go for that race at Clonmel. That kind of Henry tends to target with these kind of staying novices. This was a really, really smart performance. Back in second, he looked like he just needed to stay. Losing that last hurdle as well kind of cost him as well, because again, he just didn't have that kind of speed in the ground, but he really did he plugged on lovely altogether. He's 33 to 1 there. I think he's a very good horse, and the whole thing of this race is that you will hear this lazy trope that you need a horse that's ran 12-15 times in this race. That has completely changed over the last 5 or 6 years. Now it's just about the kind of, all the best horses here. I think he's very smart. Again, we have a long way to go. But I've also backed one, Cass, as well. I've backed 2 here, him, but we both weirdly landed on the same horse in the Albert Bartlett, which probably has never happened before. Who have you backed?
Yeah, a lot of people talking him down. Like, I'd be very sweet on Sounds Victorious here for a couple of reasons. Like, I think for him to manage to finish 4th in a Cheltenham bumper, he's absolutely all stamina. Like, by Champs-Élysées, he's just a dour stare. They couldn't believe he finished 4th in the Cheltenham bumper. A friend of mine actually pinhooked him as a foal and sold him on at Goffs after. And he was going to the bumper, and I was talking to my friend about him, and he said, just be out for a spin and experience, and couldn't believe it. And he finished 4th again in the champion bumper, Punchestown, not beaten far. Willie and all the stable tours, he just said stamina. And what I liked about it was Willie sounded absolutely thrilled after the race on Sunday, as did Townend. They said there's a big long running now at Fairyhouse, because they've moved around the hurdle setup so that they have to jump all the hurdles with the low sun. So there's a huge gap, a few furlongs between hurdles. The horse switched off, and then once he jumped second last after he'd been passed, all of a sudden he was back in the race, jumped the last, stayed on great. He's a real stayer, but what I like about it is the market. I mean, you've the yellow clay there is the favourite. We know he's going for the shorter race. Final Demand probably go for the shorter race. The big Westerner is a mare. Tough ass for a mare now in Albert Bartlett, I think. She's a big gangly mare as well. That could be an awful hard race on her.
But he actually mentioned
JetBlue.
post-race as well, Cass. Sorry, but he actually mentioned post-race. He said Albert Bartlett straight away as well, which is great.
Yeah.
He
And
really
like,
doesn't usually set that kind of a,
all
Yes,
these
sir.
horses are ahead of him in the betting. Like the JetBlue is there, not going for the race. The New Lion, not going for the race. So it just looks like he's going to be. He could easily be Mullins number one.
Yeah.
Townhead will be riding him. He'll be single figure price. I know what you're saying, Tony. You could be on one here, at a big price, goes off shorter. But sure, look, if that's the game really. So like, it just seems like a logical bet to do with me. And like I see, he's been pushed out to 33-1 in a place. So I'd say you have every chance of being on Townend's ride. Willie Mullins single figures, and it's 33-1 there now. I think it's just a good sensible bet to do. I wouldn't be worried one bit about his jumping. It's more that he's kind of lazy and gets back. And he might get out of his ground a bit, but he's a stayer. Like, he'd stay 4 miles, no problem. I don't know. Did you have a look at the Bartlett, Tony? I know we were talking about it there. I looked up the hearts. Actually, it was Manella Indo. You didn't back it that day. I'd say that was I was of course on the second Commander Fleet. I'd back to the big price, but
Yeah. Do you know what I've done that day? I backed second Commander Fleet, but you know what I've done on New Year's Day? I never bet these things, but I backed Rachel Blackmore to win a Grade 1 that year. I don't think she'd ever won a Grade 1, or maybe it was that season or something. It was around the time of your Ireland Hurler final. There was no racing on. I was reading it, so yeah, I think she was 6-1 or something. But she had a lot of goals before that. I think that was the first Grade 1 she ever had. Can I just say something about Sounds Victorious? Was the best horse in the Ferryhouse Maiden Hurdle second now the last day. It's Cawley's horse. Come walk with me. I thought Keith Donoghue would want that ride back now. 10 times out of 10. He was a little bit asleep at the start. He was a bit further back than ideal, and he finished up out wide. Well, he's wide the whole way, and he's hurdled nearly too well, and he's gone a bit soon turning in, and maybe Sounds Victorious is exactly what you want for a 3 miler that he's able to get him back. But
that's what I think.
I'm just saying, if Sounds Victorious is an Albert Bartlett horse, you'd want to be maybe keeping Cawley's horse Come Walk With Me in mind for a maiden hurdle. And also, someone pointed out to me, I think Cawley has a terrible record in maiden hurdles because he does train for handicaps. He's sensible about that. But this is a walk in the park, which I would say he has very, very few walk in the parks because they'll all be homebreds and stuff like that. So I would say he's a maiden hurdle winner waiting to happen if he can just time his run a little bit better. I thought that was a highly encouraging effort now for his second time over hurdles. He'd been fifth to Jasmine DeVoe in Navan, fairly eye-catching that day.
Yeah, so look, we're going to summarise our actual anti-post picks, the ones that we're going to put onto our running sheet at the end. But let's chat through it. I really don't want to be disparaging to the UK horses there, but just it's a funny old novice hurdle division at the moment. And I think that the DRF's going to tell a lot to firm up the markets, but there's definitely bets to be found at the moment. So our last topic before we firm up the bets, we're going to have a quick chat about January and the Christmas takeaways. And Diarmuid, we might start with you because I suppose I'd like to ask you, Banbridge, and fair play to you. You were very sweet. You had him as a winner at 14-1, tipped up. What race do you think he might go to Cheltenham? Would you give him any squeak in the Gold Cup?
I'd give him a squeak in the Gold Cup, of course I would, yeah. I thought the main part of his performance was I loved the speed he showed to actually get there, but then he had to really tough it out and stay as well. He showed he definitely stays. Obviously a Gold Cup trip's another matter altogether, but the point you always made about the Gold Cup, Cass, it is right. And David Jennings always says this at our preview night as well, is that boats don't really win Gold Cups because you have to be able to go that massive speed. And he showed now he can. Obviously, like, his extra furlongs there. I'd like him for it. I prefer Monty Star, but I would like him for it. But it's just kind of interesting there to see what happens. I thought it was a monstrous kind of performance, but I would be a little bit assuaded by the fact that Spillane Tower now isn't even going for a Gold Cup off the back of it. It's kind of hard to know how strong a King George, that it was at the same time as well. He won it very well, but I would like him, but I want a bigger price. And what is he now? 14-16-1 is he now for the Gold Cup? I kind of wouldn't want him at that price anyway. Cass,
he was
he'd be your kind of Gold Cup horse, wouldn't he?
Well, I backed him for the Gold Cup. He was 33-1 still this morning, and I was going to put him up I think Tony was thinking about putting him up on terms of our sheet. I know Tony has backed him as well. Like, he's basically on good ground. I think he only runs the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
So you're betting on the ground, and I think he's a 7-1 shot on the day. So, I thought 33s was a no-brainer, and one of the bookies was given for not tiny money now. You get a 50 quid on, and you get 25% winnings boost. You're getting 40 to 1, for 50 quid, which I thought was very, very fair. But what I loved about him at 2 miles, he could throw in a little jumping error. He jumped like a Gold Cup winner now.
Missed the ever jump.
So efficient, and it wasn't like he was big and gross and exuberant.
No,
he was just so quick away from his fences, and he wasn't low, he wasn't high. He was 3/4 up through the fence, straight at the die. Townend's not going to be riding him. That I don't care what anyone says. That's a £5 swing. As good as JJ Slevin is, Townend is the best around. So that's a huge negative. But look, I think at the price he was, I'm not going back on him now. We'll talk about him close to the time now, because no point. We're not going to back him. But I think he'd have a great chance to the Gold Cup, because I think he can just get in his rhythm, and his jumping is so good when they're going at the 3 mile speed. He's going to give himself every chance. He's going to be travelling there. When they come to the third last, and there'll only be 3 or 4 men with a chance at that stage, I think he'll be one of them if they get good ground. And it's down to the ground, Tony, isn't it? The price means you can't back him now because the ground question.
You say the price. He's a King George winner that will be going straight to Cheltenham, with Cheltenham chase form from earlier in the season, going back to his novice year. He's a festival winner. He might be short of him 7-1, with the possibility that I think the Gold Cup is quite an interesting race for a bet now at the moment, because I wouldn't be a great advocate generally of each way anti-post, but I think now you've only 19 horses in it. You've a even money nearly odds on favourite. You've a second favourite who is a potential to go somewhere else and also potential not to stay, and then you're 14, 16. But Banbridge would not be an each way bet, because there's a doubt about him running and there's a doubt about him staying. Now you're saying about boats don't win the Gold Cup, but boats do place in the Gold Cup quite a lot. And I'd say Monty. I had another few quid on Monty. I had 2 bets in the Gold Cup there in the last week, 10 days. I backed Banbridge win only, and I had a few quid each way on Monty Star. I don't Monty Star. Could you think about racetrack that suit him less than Tremor? I thought he travelled well through it. His jump was pretty okay. The one worry you had with him, now, his head carriage was a bit wonky in Tremor. He was the same first time out last season in Fairyhouse.
Yes.
And I do wonder, does he need to run a lot? And maybe he was running over 2.5 in Fairyhouse as well. I think maybe as he goes up and trip, he maybe fancies it a little bit more. That would be a little bit of a worry. But I still think the Bromhead has said all along that, it's a gradual build up. Like Facta Fail and Spillans Tower might run the race maybe a little bit too early in the season, and now have to, or a little bit on the recovery mission isn't the right word, but Spillans Tower's on a little bit of recovery mission, but Facta Fail's on a learn to settle mission, I think, because that's going to be a problem for him if he doesn't settle, especially with the Gold Cup. So I thought Banbridge and Monty Star were 2 kind of interesting horses in the Gold Cup, and the each way shape to it certainly isn't terrible at the moment. And speaking of races that don't have terrible each way shapes, I had a few quid each way on Homeby de Lee, and kind of was annoyed at myself I didn't back Homeby de Lee before he ran at Christmas. I thought he looked like a new horse in Navan, or at least a different horse, more straightforward than he was, and did the exact same in Leopardstown. I thought he had a very brief spot after 3 out there, and very, very quickly got himself out of trouble, despite making a mistake to outsettle the race very, very quickly. And I said, Tiupu shortened up quite a bit after the long walk there at Ascot. Not sure about that. I don't know, was there ever anything going to come out of the long walk and really jump to the head of the Stayers hurdle market? Crambo is a horse, obviously, suited to be Ascot. I don't think the Wall Park just would be at that level, really. So I think Homeby de Lee, again, if each way betting is your thing, you're taking a chance. I think he's fairly solid now to make the frame in the Stayers, getting 2-1 about him to be in the frame. And I do think he's a winning chance, because, don't know, a little bit on the Welby to you, but even with the steady pace in Fairyhouse, I just would have liked to see a little bit more from him, looking back on it now.
Yeah, I always have a theory with horses. You nearly have to take each season on its merits. Like, they don't last forever. And new season, Tube was ran once, and he was beaten out the gate. And he's 7-4 favourite for a championship race at Cheltenham. And a race that horses sour and often and go off the boil and, go away Yep, I'd agree with you. But I think Oboil is a 10-year-old now, but it's probably a race that's ripe to find one. And Tony, you had a few points you wanted to make on the race over Christmas in January.
Christmas, not to get too deep into the weeds here, but the Mullen stable form was obviously an issue over Christmas. I've kind of said this a few other places, written this a few other places. A lot of his winners now over Christmas and from December on have been horses coming off the breaks, rather maybe than the horses that have had a run in November. And a few of the ones that have had a run this season have kind of disappointed. Jasmine DeVoe there's another example from the weekend. I think it's just something to monitor. It's very, very weird. Usually the improvement is an absolute given with horses from the yard, and I'm sure they'll sort it out, but I was surprised by that. Couple of other things there. I thought Declan Queally had a really good Christmas now with his horses. Couple of lovely winners. He had a horse called Beggar's Cap, or so I can't just think of the name, but he won a handicap order in Limerick really well now, having caught the eye in a beginner's chase before that. He'd be the kind of horse now you'd be thinking it would run up a sequence. This horse that they landed the punt with, the two horses, one like Rocky's Diamond has finished up running that home with the Lee race and finished third in it, and looked like it was way better than the bare form. It kind of was buried down the rail and kind of met every hurdle wrong. Still did really well to finish third. That horse only a 4-year-old. I know all these 4-year-olds seem to be quite quality, but like Rocky's Diamond's an interesting horse going forward as well. But I thought maybe Pride of Place of all was the horse in the bumper on Leopardstown, the last race in meeting, the 29th. Like, she has some turn of foot. This Carrickmere, the Spruce now, I think she's gotten him out of trouble the last twice now. He kind of said in the race himself that she got him out of trouble now. Now maybe this is just actually the way to ride her, but she's kind of last turn out of the back, and then there's the horse of Elliott's, the William Butler Yates, has kind of come back in her, and you're going, this is over, and I cannot win from there, and she's won. I would say she's a champion bumper player. I don't know if he even ever had a runner in Cheltenham, Stephen. You're the man that's local to him. I don't know if that really is a thing, but definitely.
No. He had a horse that ran well. Could have finished third even in the 100 Chase, a couple of years ago. Yeah, white and black colours. Carrickmore Spruce, it's from that family, the Beals, bred with Carrickmore and a Rock and all those horses. Great, big Agrish connection out the road here from Dungarvan. She's only a 5-year-old. She's a mighty horse now.
Rock was with Tyler, wasn't it?
Yeah, I also get the impression that they were quite worried about running her on the ground in Naas, so maybe slower ground might even suit her better. Now, a yard out of form, but I'd very much be keeping an eye on them. I think this lad's a really good trainer for the small number of horses, but he had a woeful time over Christmas. Jonathan Sweeney. They went for a couple of touches. They went for a touch in Limerick in the bumper, first time out, horse kind of disappointed, and then they went with Barnahash Primrose in the maiden hurdle, first race in Limerick on the 27th. Something was up for her at the start. Was she in season, or she didn't want to line up, and Derek O'Connor dropped her at the back. He had no choice. She dropped herself out and then made a mid-race move. So I would say there's something up with his yard. He'd very few. I think he'd only run up maybe between the end of maybe August through September. Very, very small handful of runners.
Tony, speaking of 100 chases in Cheltenham and Jonathan Sweeney, what was his horse? There wasn't Sweeney the horse that won in the green colours that won the 100 chase?
That was Coleman Sweeney, wasn't it?
Sorry.
Yes.
Salsify. Well done.
But Sweeney's a really good trainer now. When they hit form, they want to be interesting. I thought a horse of his that ran well. God, I can't remember. No, it was the Pertemps qualifier, a horse called Rushmount. He looked promising now last season. I thought he travelled well for a long way, and a slight mistake 2 out, and then something come back on top of him. But when Jonathan Sweeney starts to have a winner, this happened to him last season as well. They went for a couple of touches at Easter and kind of disappointed. But then they landed a couple of touches. Sorry, this lad is not all about landing touches. Like, these are maiden hurdles and bumpers. When he's going up against the top trainers and more than holding his own. So I think when these horses do start to get a winner or two, you could probably be keeping some of his in mind. Very high strike rate trainer for a lad with a small yard.
And was there something else on January dinner? Is that all you have to say at Christmas?
Oh,
Tony?
Sorry, I'm waffling on here. I do think January can be a real dead period. Like the racing is so intense at Christmas. There's so much going on. And you kind of watch these races and you're lured into thinking, God, is that really significant for Cheltenham or for Spring Festivals, Grand Nationals, whatever. That's something to bear in mind. I just wonder, is it going to be different this year with the ground change and Mullins having a little bit of a flat time? Is he going to run a lot of particularly those novice hurdlers? There might be trials of actually great substance in January this season, as opposed to maybe your standard January when a lot of them got the run of Christmas.
Okay, yeah, so could be plenty to watch. The likes of Clonmel and Thurles and those kind of meetings coming up the next few weeks could be very strong. Okay, we're on the hour mark, so we'll finish up. And what we might do is summarise what we're actually going to tip up anti-post. And Dermot, we'll go to you first. So what do you actually want to put in to what we call the sheet of justice? You've got us off the board. You got a 14-1 winner. So we're flying it now. We've got green on the sheet. As many as you want, Dermot. Fire ahead.
Right, so the two that I'm kind of adding is Monty's Star, but Tony already has it on the sheet, but I will be adding Monty's Star. I was backed up why rewatching racing so important. I was negative leaving the race, watched it back afterwards, and went, geez, that's not as bad as I thought it was at all, actually. Cocktail Divan for the Albert Bartlett at 33s, and then Cade Doody for the Turners at 14-1. They'd be my kind of main ones. But one of my biggest anti-post punts that I've actually placed so far, and I've actually gone as big as I'll go now, Cass, about 200 quid or so anti-post, is on kind of Madsborough. As an anti-post, that's as big as I'll go, really. Madsborough there for the Arkle. I just think that the UK pundits and punters and everyone else is running away with Sir Gino as if he's already won it. He was very impressive at Christmas. He's a beautiful horse. He's the most likely winner. That's why he's favourite. But he beat a Ballyburn coming from a stable that, A, the horses just really weren't running well, and B, he looks an out-and-out stayer. We actually called it here on this podcast as well. Sir Gino is an excellent racehorse, but Madsborough was equally as impressive. He beat a very good field on a line through Cargeesy. There isn't much between them at all, and 7-2 for an Arkle could well prove to be an absolutely massive price, because the Irish Arkle will be very strong, but I think he'll take them apart, and I think Sir Gino has not met a horse like him yet anyway, Cass.
Did you back him each way, Dermot? Or
No, I went all out to win. Yeah, no, all out to win there on him.
Yeah. I just think he's one you could do each way, because I'd say there could be 5 runners in the Arkle. And I think he's the kind of one, he's going to be in the tree. He's an unbelievable horse. Yeah. And if you're getting 3-1, 7-2 now, 80% of your stake back as long as he's in the tree. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I nearly double the bet.
This
is not a responsible gambling talk, but I nearly double the bet and do it each way, on top of your win bet.
No, but he's a very good racehorse. But what gave me a fright last time was he looked a brute of a stayer. I rewatched it last night. How quick he was over the last was a new thing to him. He flew home. And I just think an Arkle, he's a stonking bet, cracking bet.
Okay. And Tony, your few to add to the list?
Yeah, I mentioned a fair few there, but the two I'll put in at the moment are Work Ahead for the Supreme, win 25s or whatever he is there, and Homely the Lee each way for the stayers. I think there is 10-1 available there. I have also backed Madsborough, by the way, win only a small bet. I just think the discrepancy between himself and Sir Gino is just a little bit wide. I'm not going to get into the us versus them stuff.
This isn't us versus them one at all, really.
No, they can't have been much difference in them as juvenile hurdlers, really, when you're looking at the form of Cargeesy. Madsborough has made a highly, highly encouraging start over fences. Maybe it wasn't beating a horse just as highly rated as Ballyburn, but visually it was excellent. Mullen seems to have a huge opinion of him, and he's 3 times the price.
Yeah.
In Mullins we trust. Like it is what it is.
I'm going to back him, but I'm going to back him each way because that's kind of the filth that I like. But a little thing with Sir Gino, like he was very good. He didn't have a straight jumping technique. He was very skewy at a few. He was kind of moving to a side in the air, and he's got quite a straight back.
He was dossing a bit, I think, though. I thought he was dossing a bit.
He was. No, he dossed in the back of the last, because Ballyburn basically came down at the last and closed the gap. And he closed the gap, jumped to the line. Like, you wonder about that as well. Look, it wasn't perfect from Sir Gino. People are getting a bit carried away. I think that's the message. And Madsborough looks an absolute weapon. Hopefully, they're just 2 absolute monsters, and we're going to get an Arkle for the ages, because it looks like that. The 2 I'll add, Sounds Victorious, 33-1. Do you know what? I'll leave it at that because there's a race we haven't even talked about, and we'll talk about that next week because this horse will still be the same price. And I know Tony has a lot to say on that race as well. It's kind of an interesting race. It's a bet in the Mare's Chase that I'll throw that on for next week. So we'll finish up, lads. We can't really fancy it this weekend because questionable whether the racing is on. So good to be back for 2025. Next week we might have news of when our Cheltenham preview is on for anyone that wants to attend. Is that right, Jarmo?
Yeah,
might have a date.
It could take a week or two, but yeah, hopefully soon.
Okay. So the next week or the week after, we'll let you know if you want to come along to our Cheltenham preview. And thank you to Tony Keenan, thank you to Diarmuid, Nolan, thank you to our sponsors Gambling.com and Betfred, and we will see you all next week.
Relentless, remorseless, has pounded Cheltenham Star into submission.